Universal, Warner, and Sony have banded together to sue two of the most advanced startups in the emerging field of AI music, which is ironic because a lot of the investors in Udio and Suno come from the major labels. Like will.i.am is one of them. I've seen producers compare the AI platforms with individuals who are like, well, a lot of producers steal their ideas from other artists, or they borrow, or they learn from others. What's the difference between that and AI? Oh boy. All right, Erinn, you ready to talk AI?
I'm stoked because this court case is, it's wild. I feel like it's just going to keep being the wild, wild west. And I just want to say, you said it. You were saying it before anybody. You were like, the rights issues that all of this AI is going to create is going to be insanity. It's going to be the wild, wild west. I feel like you started saying that in like 2020 or 2021, and you've doubled down on it. And then you're talking people through it, and people are trying to act like you're this archaic old man. And I'm like, Payne is right.
Yeah, I may be old, but I'm not archaic. And remember, we had a conversation about this a little while ago, and we got called out for not knowing anything. Some AI, I keep wanting to use derogatory terms. Some AI fanatic was really going hard on us, calling us morons, saying we didn't know what the hell we were talking about, because his assertion was AI platforms don't steal. And mine was, yes, they absolutely do. That's why consistently generative AI platforms have been getting sued. And you brought up the possibility of MLC, which is a governmental organization, perhaps taking the reins on this. Well, MLC hasn't, I don't believe, taken legal action against these companies, but
not yet.
But who has? The RIAA, and the RIAA is not a governmental organization. They are not a nonprofit. They are a trade organization that represents the big three. So the Billboard.com article by Kristen Robinson reads as follows on the sub headline, which says, spearheaded by the RIAA, Universal, Warner, and Sony have banded together to sue two of the most advanced startups in the emerging field of AI music, which is ironic because a lot of the investors in both Udio and Suno come from the major labels. Like will.i.am is one of them. And I've been saying over and over again, they're going to get sued because they are stealing content. There's no way that you can type in a prompt and get something that sounds like a 1970s soul record without having ingested a ton of 1970s soul records. There's no way to get that. People will say, oh, well, you can do Creative Commons. There's no way that tens of thousands of artists who existed before Creative Commons existed suddenly just fed with their consent, fed their entire back catalog, which they don't even own. Their labels own. A lot of them are dead anyway. There's no way they fed these to these AI companies. No way. And so we talked about how the BBL Drizzy beat, and it's not anyone's fault. I'm not blaming King Wallonius or Metro Boomin or Take Keith or anybody. They made a beat. That's what the situation required. I probably would have done the same thing. It's the companies, though, the technology and the actions they're taking with these companies that is the problem. So let me just read this. The three major music companies filed lawsuits against AI firms Suno and Udio on Monday, alleging the widespread infringement of copyrighted sound recordings at an almost unimaginable scale, which is important for my points on this. Blah, blah, blah. The lawsuits allege that Suno and Udio have unlawfully copied the label's sound recordings to train their AI models. Yeah, duh. To generate music that, why is this Billboard? You got to do something about these embedded ads. Generate music that could saturate the market with machine generated content that will directly compete with, cheapen, and ultimately drown out the genuine sound recordings on which the services were built. At least they're saying it plainly and saying, look, this is cutting into our profits and we don't like that. And that's my worry about the labels, because the second they find out, because Napster cut into their profits and then suddenly Spotify came along and they found a way to benefit from Napster-like technology. At some point, these labels are going to go from, I think the reason they're suing them is because they don't control them. The second they control them, the second Udio and Suno are like, oh, let's just work out a deal where you guys get the majority of the money somehow. And then they start charging crazy royalty rates and crazy subscription fees. All of a sudden, you're going to see the labels change their tune. But anyway, building and operating these services requires at the outset copying and ingesting massive amounts of data to train. Didn't the AI dick sucking hoe ass bitch on Twitter that called us morons say this is not how AI works? Wasn't that what he said?
He had some sort of weird beef when you were explaining generative AI, I think. Right? Because he was like, because you were saying how it was being fed. I don't know. I just remember at first I thought he was making sense because I hate how his approach, but I was like, oh, let me learn something. But then he didn't make any sense. And I'm like, oh, you don't know how AI works either. And I think sometimes when people who have a shallow understanding of something think that they're the only ones who know about it, they then try to go school other people, thinking that's like when we were talking about NFTs. We were telling people these don't make sense. Like, I understand that there are things that I don't understand about this. And all of us were making assertions like, maybe we're just missing something, but explain to us how a receipt for a picture is going to change your financial future and generations to come. And again, I understand a smart wallet, smart contracts. I understand the digital wallet aspects, but and then people were like, NFTs aren't the thing. NFTs are the contract and all these things. It's like, cool. I still don't understand why Bored Apes are going for hundreds of thousands of dollars. And now they're worth $0. Absolutely nothing.
We're morons. That's why we don't understand that. Some crypto bro can crypto-splain it.
It was money laundering for rich people. Let's just be honest.
So, and I don't love being right about this stuff, but I also did say that BBL Drizzy was the first domino. And let me read on to this part of the article. Udio has already produced what could be, it's Udio maybe. Is it Udio? I don't know. Phonetically, it's Udio. It might be Udio. Has already produced what could be considered the first AI-generated hit song with the Drake diss track BBL Drizzy, which was generated on the platform by comedian King Melonius. At least he's getting his credit now. Suno has achieved early success since its December 2023 launch, raising $125 million in funding. God damn. Both companies have declined to comment on whether or not unlicensed copyrights were part of their data set. I wonder why. In previous interviews with Billboard, Udio co-founder David Ding said simply that the company trained on good music. However, in a series of articles for Music Business Worldwide, which we covered on a previous episode, the founder of AI music safety nonprofit Fairly Trained, Ed Newton Rex, found that he was able to generate music from Suno and Udio that bears a striking resemblance to copyrighted music. So we're going to see. There's more to this article. Read it, because I just don't want to sit here and do story time with everybody on the podcast. But read that article. There's a lot going on. And Erinn, was it you who sent me Carl Folks, who's a yes, great lawyer and a friend of the podcast? Okay, so he commented, and I think he had some really great things to say. I just have one problem with one of the things he said, and this was what I was going to challenge Dame on. Because Dame said that he said there's some logic to it though. So Carl Folks, two first points. I'll read them as follows. He says, my thoughts on the major label versus AI firms lawsuit. Number one, there is no doubt that these AI firms are trained on copyrighted works. And he also says in parentheses, don't think they are denying that. They are in fact not denying that, at least not in any article I've ever read. The second thing he says is it fair use? I mean, I've read fair use. I'm not a lawyer though. I would say no, it's not. But his point is that artists digest and train on years of work before they ultimately create new works. And I've heard that. How do you feel about that, Erinn?
So when I first read it, I didn't think anything of it. I thought he was saying, is it fair use? And then I thought he was making a point against somebody saying fair use by saying artists trained for years, meaning you're stealing from the artist training. Then when you took problem with it, I went back and reread it and I was like, oh, he's citing artists as a secondary or as a point to support that fair use means that if I'm studying this thing and I'm inspired by it, then it and I didn't exactly steal it. Essentially, I mean, fair use is a lot more broad than that. But I feel like in a snapshot as a lawyer, he's taking his legal understanding of fair use and saying that because it's not directly copywriting specific works, then potentially it could be fair use. And I know he's posing a question and not making a statement. My issue with that is that I don't believe that we can apply the same rules to technology as we do to humans, because the way that, because I think it, like, if we start to give technology the same rights as humans, we are in murky water, because whoever can manipulate the machine can have more than the people who can't manipulate the machine, because they're getting multiple sets of rights, essentially. You know, it's like hard for me to explain. I don't want to go too deep into examples of this, but I think that you get into very murky water that way, and you're allowed to make exceptions to rules, and you can bend it and you can lobby for things as if it were on behalf of a human, but it all works against us. So I don't like that, because I don't want to humanize AI. And I understand that a lot of people, especially the platform owners and those invested in them, are trying to humanize it. That's what even's happening with the new version of ChatGPT. You know, they give you a voice and the tone that it reads in, and a lot of these AI narration things that are coming out, even with like Riverside and all of these different platforms that we utilize, they're trying to make them feel a lot less sterile. That's what they're saying the goal is for us, so that we become way more comfortable with it.
Yeah.
But in effect, what it's doing is making us partial to, like I had a homegirl, she was joking, but I think she really meant it. She was like, I stopped going to therapy as much because I'm talking to ChatGPT all the time. And that shit really scared me. And I get it though, because it's like, it's sourcing all the information from years of studying and all these different things. So she has a question or is like ruminating about something that she would take to her therapist. She's just plugging it into ChatGPT and letting it talk back to her. I'm not going to, it's not for me, but like, I'm not judging her, right? I just think it's dangerous to ask that question, because it starts to immediately, steal from the rights holders. If that thought can be percolated and then it can bloom into something, and we have a full cup of shit coffee that we're drinking from, where it's like, well, is it fair use? Just that question is enough to get something thrown out in court. I've been through a lot of court cases that, like the probable cause thing. If you can just get just a little, if there's any way that you can say this isn't definitively this thing. And I think that's where it's dangerous, because again, when a human is interpreting a voice or a sound, we're going through our prefrontal cortex, we're going through our amygdala, we're going through our trauma, our imagination, our ideas, all these different things. It's intelligent design for sure. Not to say that AI isn't intelligent design, but I can't give AI the same rights as humans. And I think that people do steal unintentionally because it's sitting in the back of their head and, you're mimicking a chord progression, all those different things. But I think there's a place for human error with that. There's actual people stealing intentionally, and then there's human error. With AI, there is no error. That's the thing. The guy who invented AI, he did the 2020 special, and he quit all the companies he was working for and was like, it's already too far. Like, we're already too far gone. It's too late for humanity, right? Doomsday preppers loved it, and all of us who have a suspicion are like, oh shit, yeah, if this is the guy who helped create it and he said that, and I know I'm getting long, but I'm just saying that I think the human error aspect and the humanity aspect cannot be given to the technology because it's intentional. It was directly fed copyrighted materials in an effort to learn rapidly so that the copywriters never have to be paid again. Like, on paper, that's exactly what's happening.
Which violates copyright law, clearly.
We're going to
very clearly
the human aspect. Instead of having a human write a song or a human do a voiceover, we're going to teach AI how to do this. So we cut the middleman out, we get the paycheck, and we just get to chalk it up to the machine. So at its heart, it's meant to be predatory, but we can code around it and say all these things, but they're not denying it, because if they deny it, they know that they're building even more on that house of lies that they're standing on. So they have to leave it in this ambiguous place for people who don't have the understanding of what's going on. Yeah. And I don't like that.
Well, and why are we trying to usher in this robot takeover? And, just comparing what AI systems do with what humans do as though they're the same is problematic, because, and this isn't even me being alarmist or extremist or hypothetical, they've got AI robotic soldiers now that are damn near sentient, that can walk around, and they're killing machines. So if one of those is coming at me and I throw a rock at it, what, I go to prison for assaulting an officer because they're treated as human? Because we're now assigning the same legal rights to what the AI things are doing to what human beings previously only could enjoy.
And the problem with that is that there's no consequence for them. Like, if an AI robot misbehaves or beats a human, they're disassembled, but the technology doesn't get disbanded. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, if another human beats a human, there's a consequence, you'd hope. Yeah. But you know what I'm saying? So it's just like, I think that's the thing. It's like, great point. There's consequences to a human error or an issue that's even companies and corporations run by people. This AI, there's no consequence to it because it's a living, breathing mechanism that's just here in our world, and we're forced to deal with it now. And they're hiding behind that. They're like, oh, the system just does what the system does. Like, no, the system does what you told it to do. What are you talking about? And that's a real problem when it comes to, you can't just say, all right, I'm not infringing on your copyright. Maybe the AI is, but I can't control the AI. Okay. A human has consequences. The AI apparently doesn't, which is absolutely stupid. But just to compare a human to the AI, I mean, a human being can learn how to be a cashier or an electrician. If all of a sudden AI learned how to be all of those things and could just be programmed to do what those humans do, which it probably can, in less time and for free, would humans have a problem with it? Yeah. Does that logically justify a company replacing all of these millions of humans' jobs with just a couple robots that work for free? Some people say yes. And I think those are the same people who are like, yeah, I think it's fine when an entire city, state, region's economy, like what happened to the Midwest. That's why there's so much devastation and poverty out here. When an entire industry moves overseas to take advantage of lax labor laws where they can hire children and keep them locked up in a factory all day just to increase their profit margins. Is that the logical thing to do? From a business standpoint, absolutely. And then work for free is like, I still, like there's that book, there's no such thing as a free lunch. Like, it cost y'all a shit ton of money to develop the technology and then to build the technology and then build the houses for the technology and then constantly recalibrate, reprogram. And then it gets so intelligent that you're paying high level engineers to recalibrate, reprogram around the clock. So you end up for a really long time actually having a way higher burn rate than humans. So you're talking about far into the future, which I understand. I understand the benefit of that. But I think that you're just projecting potential profits in the future. You're not really thinking about the actual collateral that comes more with the human aspect being a part of things, like theft being higher, like, oh, we'll just put in an AI security system. Okay, so now everybody's under surveillance and everybody is on edge and everybody, you know what I'm saying? And it's just like, it leads to, and everybody's drinking. And so like, yes, I know the powers that be want that. But overall, if you're thinking about it from a very human, pragmatic perspective, it doesn't make sense to continuously replace us with machines. Even if you're talking about efficiency, a lot of y'all just need to be more patient. It doesn't make sense.
No. And but back to these comparisons, because I'm seeing producers compare the AI platforms with individuals who are like, well, a lot of producers steal their ideas from other artists, or they borrow, or they learn from others. What's the difference between that and AI? Well, one, if I steal something, I get in trouble as a human being. I can't hide behind technology. And there are real world consequences to that, as we've seen time and time again. But
I mean, it depends on who you are.
It depends on who you are. But even if even Dr. Luke got sued for replaying a drum break, I'm saying it can happen. People get touched.
Dr. Luke is out here.
Yeah.
Raping women and still has the rights to Katy Perry's next 3 albums, and she has to let him, I mean, I get what you're saying. There should be, and the system is set up for certain people to pay the consequences. But as it stands, Diddy's still out of jail as well. So
that he is. But to put it in the perspective, just with the generative AI's ability, just in terms of sheer numbers, just one of these platforms alone, the one that we're talking about, the one that generated BBL Drizzy, back in May, it could create 10 tracks per second. That's 25 million songs a month. And to put that into perspective, that's over 12 times more songs than what human musicians worldwide publish to the streaming platforms per month. And that's just one AI platform. 2 are being sued. So think about that. We go from 25 million to 50 million. So not only do these platforms eliminate jobs for producers and composers, but they eliminate entire copyrights. Because we saw with the BBL Drizzy situation, suddenly it went into public domain. So there's no sound recording copyright. If I use a sample from an actual band or a sample maker and the song generates good money, that money's going to actual humans. If I use an AI sample, there are no splits. So it might feel good as a producer to not have to split anything with fellow creatives, but we're urinating in our own groundwater on this one, because we are training the more we use these platforms, we're just training them to replace everybody. And we think, okay, well, I'm not a loop maker. Doesn't affect me. I'm not a musician. I don't play guitar. It doesn't affect me. Fuck the people that it does affect. I'm just trying to get my beats off. Okay, well, then you're training them to create content that producers like to use. And then the next step is for them to just replace you fucking moron. And you see so many producers out there who are, it's real. I hear little bitch ass anonymous rappers on the internet talking about, well, that's why AI is going to replace you because you charge $24.99 for a beat lease. That's horrible. You should give me beats for free. Man, those people are nobodies. They're cowards. They're not buying beats to begin with. Who I see promoting actual generative AI, it's all producers. We are ushering in our own problematic futures.
I think it's interesting too, because it's not going to replace everybody, right? So some people are like, well, I'm going to be fine. But this goes back to your point, which is what we were also talking about with Spotify. And people were like, just get over it. Like, it's not really going to affect it's only going to affect this many people. When we started talking about, you know, the new rate that they were trying to give people, and then, you know, shout out to the MLC, and they were like, absolutely fucking not. But when we were talking about it, people were like, you know, and I think even Dame was like, well, it's just like, for those who fall into that category, it is what it is. And I'm like, no, I can't fix this. I don't know how to fix it, but if we're not talking about it, people aren't thinking from the perspective of this is detrimental to the creator economy. That's like going back to when we were talking about David Shands, and he was like, oh, I just found this on the internet and I repurposed it. And I was like, do you hear how crazy that is? You stole from another creator and you made money off of it and they didn't. And he was like, people take from me all the time. I'm like, it doesn't matter that it's okay with you by and large because you're doing okay. But there are plenty of people who are not doing well, who could stand to have the type of money that comes from generating this content. Or there are people like me who don't even generate money making content. I don't have a creator page on my personal Instagram. I still think it's wrong. There's got to be people, for the sake of caring about where this world is heading and what's going to happen for the creator economy. And again, I'm not saying that I'm the one to stop it. I would just love for y'all to pause and think, what is the effects here? What are we going to experience? Like, what are the effects of us just saying, well, it is what it is. AI is here for sure. But maybe you will think twice next time before you decide to plug in a beat and say, like, give me some metro type drums, you know, because again, now it's going to metros, all of his music and listening to it. And then it's going to all the type beats on YouTube and listening through it. It's going to, you know what I'm saying? It's just like, for me, like even on Instagram, I just like that shit pops up. I'm like delete or swipe. And even anytime I accidentally, you know, cause now it's like, you can't even type anything. And it's like, oh, AI assist here. What would you, it's like, yo, get out of here. I'm not making any money off of you being trained so efficiently that you're going to take all of the money. And it's not even about the dispensation of the funds. It is to a degree because I'm a thought leader. That's how I make my money. I make my money from my ideas and from talking to people. So if you keep getting my ideas, then people just think what I'm doing is regular. It's not. I'm a human and I'm gifted. So there's never going to be a computer who can think as efficiently and uniquely as me, but it can give you quick, interesting responses. And the more intelligent people feed into it, the quick and interesting responses, it starts to program humanity now. Instead of humans programming it, now we're primed for now we're like, oh yeah, that's how social media works. We turned into like TikTokers, and we like TikTok because the platform said, this is the format. This is how. So now people are like, oh, you got to keep it short. You got to tell a story this way. You got to do the edits this way. It trained humans, right? Cool. We evolved, but that's what this is doing. We're training it, so it's now going to train us. So everybody's appetite is going to be for the way that AI operates in the world now. So the way you're going to be looking for sounds, the way you're going to want songs to sound, all these things are going to become the mainstream. So I think people need to be thinking, again, especially producers, stop looking for a quick buck. Or stop looking for an easy way to not collaborate with others. I would look deeper and say, what is it in me that wants me to not, collaborate? And again, I use ChatGPT. I write decks from it. I've landed several grants in the last couple of months from ChatGPT. I'm not saying don't utilize the tools. I'm saying there needs to be more responsible use. There needs to be more thoughtful use. And you need to think about the implications. I can't even say for the future generations. Like, honestly, we're fucked. Get right with your maker. But I'm saying, like, I don't know how many more future generations we have coming. I'm just saying, what about tomorrow? What about next year? What about 3 years from now? We keep just thinking this is shits and giggles on the internet. Like, there are real world implications to what's going on with the AI. And I think as creators, we should care about each other. Like, it's not about making money today. It's about, what does the future of music look like? What does our economy look like? And how are we going to survive if we don't care about each other? Because the world don't care about us. The industry. Yeah,
and that's the problem. The industry squeezed us so much. The economy squeezed us so much. There are all these systems. And then those very same systems say, well, here's another system that's going to make your life easier right now. And we're like, cool. fuck everybody else. Let me get my short-term money and I'll deal with tomorrow. It's sick. What do you think of, just to close this out for now, because we're going to pick it back up, but what do you think the outcome of this legal action is going to be against these platforms?
Exactly what you said. They're going to come to a deal with all the big three, and the big three are going to now own a third or a 4% of them. That's why I don't trust Spotify. It's like, bro, they were trying to take you out, and then suddenly now they own a significant market share. If I'm not mistaken, Lucian Grange UMG has a larger percentage than Daniel Ek. Do you know what I'm saying? And I get it. I get that the founders don't own, I think like Bill Gates owns like 1.8% of Microsoft or whatever, which is like still like a really huge percentage as a singular shareholder now, but still it's like, it's wild. So I think what's going to happen is what they were trying to force on TikTok, which was, oh, you don't want to play ball? Okay, we're going to F you up. And clearly here we are. I just want to say, months later, for those of you who are saying anything to us, TikTok is fine. TikTok is growing. Their numbers are swelling because people were like, oh shit, if it's about to be banned in the US, let me get on the platform and get my last hurrah off. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I think that the big three are going to either take them all the way down and come out with their own thing, same way that they tried to come out with their own bootleg version of like this. I don't know. I don't even know if that platform is still alive. The one where they're trying to get you to pay a subscription to use their music, which made no sense. Either they're going to come out with another bootleg-ish version of an AI platform, or they're just going to keep suing them until somebody comes directly to them and say, hey, I want to go public. I would love for you to be an investor. We'll split this thing 50-50. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're going to end up owning, to me, a lion's share of anything that happens with AI because they have the means to play ball and to sue the socks off of anybody who doesn't.
I think exactly, because maybe they've gotten these infusions of 100, even if it's a couple $100 million, even if it's a few $100 million, the labels are playing with billions and billions of dollars. So
collectively, they each yes.
Individually, they have billions.
Collectively, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So it's.
And they got lawyers on lawyers
forever
on lawyers. If y'all ever been in a thread just off of, I could tell you, Def Jam, I got in a thread with them. They had like 9 lawyers just for me to ask about like one thing with an artist that was signed, that I had signed there. Like, it's crazy, y'all. You don't even understand. So yeah, I mean, it don't matter how much bread you got. I'm gonna be honest. $100,000. They're chuckling at $100 million. They gave Drake $400 million. Like, they're chuckling at that money. They got money for days.
Well, if you have music for days, you should be dropping it. Go to tolost.com, use the code @odds for 3 free months. There's a lot I could drop in 3 months, especially if you're a producer with a lot of beats sitting on your hard drive. If you're an artist with albums that you've never put on streaming, a lot of legacy artists just haven't done that. Or I shouldn't even call them legacy artists, but artists who were active before streaming. They just have music sitting around, demos, whatever. Put it out. It's free. Try it out. We'll pick up this conversation and more because this is not going away. This topic is not going to go away. And so hopefully we can be on the cutting edge of the conversation.
Weigh in. Let us know your thoughts. I want to know what y'all think. Y'all think I'm crazy? Y'all think Pain is crazy?
They think we're both crazy. And then we come back and we're like, what we said just happened. They're like, yeah, well, whatever. Anyone could have seen that coming.
I'm going to just say we haven't been wrong about a lot of these big trends. I mean, I'm not saying we're perfect, but a lot of the big stuff we haven't been wrong about.
There's a lot I don't know shit about, but when I go on this podcast, I really do feel what I'm saying.
And we actually research. Y'all think we just shooting from the hip. We're reading articles and discussing ahead of time, but also talking to people that we know. We're not just like, we saw this article 5 minutes before. Let's talk about this. Like, we're doing the research, y'all.
And we're just talking to the couple of weirdos. Most of you are really supportive. We appreciate you. There were like people that I'll block on Twitter just because they're annoying the shit out of me. And then they come on YouTube and like, well, who is this fucker with the fucking weird fucking eye tattoo, which is hyperpigmentation. But
I
you know,
like
like
to chuckle out of the people who say something negative about me, because I'm gonna be honest. Like,
yeah,
what are
you
you
don't do
saying
shit.
about me that it's negative? Do you know what I'm saying? And I know some people
Yeah.
different opinions from me, but like, you can't be mad at me. And if you are, you need a hug. It's okay.
A hug from someone other than
Yeah,
us.
not me.
On that note, appreciate you tuning in. We'll be back for a similar conversation next time, and Dame can address our points about this. Appreciate you. Peace.